calling 417-864-0552 or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising. You're listening to Addie's Radio on the Vets On Media Network.
Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to At Ease Radio. It is August 5th, and it is a beautiful day here in Scottsdale, Arizona. How is it going? Today I have Adam Bird in the studio, and I have StevieAnne Pettit and things. How's it going, Adam?
It's going good. It's going good. It's going to go real good.
Good. What's going on, man?
I don't know.
Yeah, just
upbeat, man. Just got to stay positive, you know?
That's right, man. Woo!
Yeah.
And Miss Pettit, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. What's the story?
What's the story? I don't know. Life's really good. I know that today's my last show with you guys before I start employment with another place, and I don't know, I'm in like a lot of gratitude right now. This has been a really, really wonderful opportunity and very selfless on you guys' part. So I don't know, it's like a bittersweet, you know, but I'm sure we'll consciously collaborate on things in the future too. But I'm really looking forward to today's show and kind of wrapping things up, and I really appreciate you guys for giving me this opportunity.
Well, hey, we really have appreciated having you be on the show. It's been such an honor and pleasure to get your brand, if you will, on here. And so thank you so much. And yeah, it is a bit of a bittersweet, but I'm sure we'll be doing more in the future together. So I did want to talk to you a lot, kind of get into the book really today, since it is your last show, and to kind of talk about maybe some of your inspiration for writing it.
Okay, definitely flatulence. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Just in the bathroom.
There are a lot of different authors out there right now, and different inspirational speakers like Eckhart Tolle, Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres. A lot of the people that are quoted in the book, actually, they're talking about ego, and it's part of this conscious shift. You know, it's learning to be aware of the ego and then identifying it as being separate from who we are at the core. That it's just part of this human experience. It comes with the car. It comes with our vessel. So the inspiration behind it was I was doing all this work, all this really heavy work around conscious living, and then me being the comedian that I am and just always being a little bit of a class clown between, you know, conversations with the teacher, a buddy of mine, Brett Black, who illustrated the book, we're sitting at a table and, you know, we're talking about how egos are like farts, and you know, your ego's out of control and it stinks right now, and it really snowballed into this huge thing where I came home and I just couldn't stop making the comparisons, and I felt a lot of peace about it because it was comical. I was continuously seeing these like hilarious comparisons between the two, and it made me being compassionate for other people and more thoughtful and mindful of the things that I was telling myself, and then the attitude that I was, you know, giving other people. It just made me much more aware of that, but it was easy to observe it without getting too hard on myself because I was looking at it as flatulence. You know, I was seeing all these different egoic episodes I was having, and then I was relating them to farts. So it was hilarious, and I was able to laugh at myself while still observing. So right. I don't know, that's the inspiration, and then the hope is that by sharing it via book, that you know, just even one person for one moment of their life, if they can observe from a non-biased and a comedic approach, then why not? Why not make conscious living a little bit easier to digest, you know?
Absolutely. So, talk to us about like you're saying about observing it and kind of laughing at it from the humor experience, and why is that important when looking at the ego?
Well, I think so. The ego, we perceive it as being our self-image. It's, you know, we perceive it as who we are. The truth is, though, the ego is just part of the human experience. It's like we have these vessels, you know, these bodies, and we're trying to navigate our purposeful path here on planet Earth for however long we're going to be here. And the ego, it just comes with the car. It's part of the brain and the things that we have. Oftentimes, though, I think we take it way too seriously. We let the mind chatter that the ego generates, we let that literally steer our purpose off of our purposeful path most of the time. Because I think most of us identify the ego as being something negative. We're always quick to say, oh, that person's having an ego trip, and that person's got the biggest ego, and they're so ego-driven. It's rare that we, you know, familiarize someone with the ego by saying that it's something positive. It's just really, really rare. So I think because we have so many negative viewpoints of the ego, we tend to just continue that mind chatter and that thought pattern that our egos aren't helpful. But then what we don't realize is that it's our ego inside of each of us that's labeling all these things around us. It's the ego in us that's identifying the ego in other people. It's the ego in us that's telling us that we're not good enough, or that we're not, or that we're better than someone. So the idea is, and it's comical because it's like it's a two-part. You want to take a comedic approach to it because it makes it a little bit easier to digest. Absolutely. And if you put too much thought into it, then it could also be the ego that's trying to get away from the ego.
Right.
So, you know, if we can laugh at it, then perhaps we're just seeing it as a brief, you know, interlude, a brief break from the norm, and we're just laughing for just a moment at something that we're not attaching ourselves to. The ego likes to identify and attach itself to labels. So, you know, it's fun to make it just something fun, because then we don't get caught up in the drama of trying to lose the ego. It's just part of the human experience. We should laugh at it.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of is what makes it fun down here, and we have a lot to learn from it. I love that. So can you give us a few examples of ego trips or ego like comical ego episodes that like we, you know, just to give us an example of what to like observe or what, and more an idea of what the ego is.
Okay, so ideally the ego is the mind chatter that happens to us, and it happens to us. It's not necessarily something we generate. Thoughts come to mind.
Right.
So the thoughts, the ego, and the mind chatter that it provides can be anything from, you know, like earlier, I'm better than someone, or perhaps it's I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, I'm not lovable. Perhaps it's when you're standing in line at checkout and the cashier's taking an extremely long time. And it's the mind chatter that says, we don't deserve to stand in this line, we have places to be.
Right.
Or perhaps it's the opposite of that. Perhaps it's, you know, being extremely maybe compassionate even. Maybe it's assuming, making these assumptions that that person is rather slow because perhaps there's a learning curve there. So really the ego is any mind chatter, period, that is an attempt to label and identify our surrounding environment here in the human experience, which is why it's neither good nor bad. It's just providing us information. The thing is, we can't be certain that all of our egotistical rants upstairs are accurate.
Right.
So the ego's just, it's kind of like that proverbial angel and devil on your shoulder, perhaps, if you want to see it as good or bad, but perhaps even thinking of it in terms of vibrational levels. You know, is the mind chatter that's coming to mind, does it serve me at a high vibrational place of compassion and love and abundance and prosperity, generosity, gratitude, or is this a low vibrating frequency of shame, guilt, sorrow, worthlessness, things like that? So
right.
It neither good nor bad. It's just giving us information, and it's up to us to consciously filter through, to observe at a distance and go, okay, whatever this mind chatter is coming in, how does it serve me for my greatest good, my purpose here, you know? And so the examples are all day long. I mean, even now, I'm sure every single one of us, despite, you know, this interview and this environment, we still have, our gears are turning, there's things we're thinking, and it's the mind chatter that's constantly coming in, you know. So it could be anything, and it could be labeled as good or bad. But basically, it's any information that you get throughout the day, just that mind chatter that comes to mind, and then it's up to us to filter through it consciously, and that's where conscious crop dusting comes in.
Right. Well, talk to us about that, conscious crop dusting.
So conscious crop dusting is the idea that after we've received a bunch of different mind chatter, a bunch of different thoughts, we've kind of taken a step back, because who wants to linger in that environment anyway?
Right.
We take a step back and we kind of assess maybe the toxicity, maybe whether or not our thoughts have been purified and filtered and we know what serves us, and then moving forward and maybe stating our truth, or whether it's to a boss or a loved one or a fellow employee, you know, or our children, you know, whoever it is, before we expel and extinguish our essence, if you will. It's kind of making sure that we've filtered through, and that whatever we're about to crop dust our environment with, that it's conscious, that it's not going to be extremely toxic, and then get into some of the other comedic comparisons, like making it difficult for us to clear the air afterwards. And then too, ensuring that it's not toxic even for ourselves, our own internal dialogue, which is silent but deadly.
Right.
So lots of different funny comparisons, but ultimately the goal is to, as often as we can remember, observe the mind chatter, sift through it and find what serves us and our greatest good, and then that of our environment, and then consciously crop dust our thoughts or our human experience through actions, however best, you know, however best for our environment and those in it.
Now, would you say that one of the goals, I mean, I don't, is to be ego-free? I mean, do you think that's even possible for people to be ego-free?
I mean, you know, I don't know the answer to that. I imagine there's many spiritual leaders that have been considered as having reached a level of enlightenment. I personally can speak for my own. I know that I've reached enlightenment. Doesn't mean I stayed there, but I've touched it. I've touched it a couple times, and it was the moment that I was truly aware of my ego. I heard the thoughts. I could, you know, I could differentiate between the things that I was saying, or that I was hearing, the thoughts rather of, you know, oh well, I'm not good enough for this, and gosh, I really blew that, and interview, and, you know, just things like that. You know, I would hear the mind chatter, but in that moment, in that precise moment that we are acknowledging the mind chatter within us, we're an outsider looking in. We're an observer, and that's conscious living. That is enlightenment, because we're not of the ego in that moment. I didn't separate from it entirely. I just gained distance from it. So I don't know that that the goal is to be absent of ego as it is to just live with it, not for it. That's the goal, in my opinion.
To
but that's
observe
just
it.
my ego talking. I don't know.
So, I mean, I love what you said about that as far as, I mean, separating yourself from the ego, and then when you do that, and then it's like you see then that you also have a choice, and in that choice you find power. Is that would that be an accurate assessment, or?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, and not ego-driven power, but purposeful power.
Yeah.
Like
Power is in like happiness, like I decide how I feel, nothing outside of
yeah,
myself.
like absolute power, capital A, capital P, something so absolute and so genuine and pure, but certainly powerful. It's
Right.
almost like perhaps you meditate or in this conscious awareness, it's like it's still, it's the stillest you've ever been, but it's the most vibrationally charged, it's such an opposite type thing. It's
Right.
the loudest quiet you'll ever know. It's the calmest power. It's a kind of it's hard to explain, but you know it. You capital K know it in your gut. And I don't know that we can experience that unless we are distant from the ego. And all we have to do that is just as often as we remember each fleeting moment. I call them now-ments, your moment in the now. Each fleeting now-ment, just as often as you can remember, just observe. And just go, oh, what is the mind chatter that's going on right now in my human vessel? You know?
Yeah. That was so beautiful, Stevie. And kind of going back to some earlier conversations that we were talking about, I mean, when you are in that place of kind of separate and observing, and that the loudest quiet, and and all that, you're talking about just being in that place of knowing, capital K, knowing that you're perfect and you're whole and you're alive and you're yeah. I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So let's talk about rosy cheeks.
Okay. I'm pretty sure this is chapter 3 in the book, and rosy cheeks is about not just our back end cheeks, but the comedic comparison here was, the rosy set of cheeks. But I'm more so talking about up here, like when we're flush with blush.
Yeah.
And it's because whether we're farting, which happens to be an embarrassing thing for people, I don't know why. I'm going to do it right now. I'm just kidding. But we get really, really embarrassed about things that we can't control and things that are kind of foreign to us. So with an ego, if we have an egotistical rant and we perhaps say something, maybe in the presence of someone we should not have said it in front of, or perhaps in an egotistical rant we say something that offends others, we might get really, really, really embarrassed. And, then we have a case of a set of rosy cheeks. Here we are, we're blushing, we're embarrassed by what we've said or how we've acted. This could be even, people have temper tantrums sometimes. You kind of see it in public, maybe like at a fast food restaurant or any restaurant. You kind of hear people, and at a distance, we're like, my goodness, this person is like really on an ego trip, and so we witness it all the time. The secret too, though, is this isn't necessarily about finding it in other people. Although if we can do it from a place of unconditional love, that's fine, just to observe it. But ideally, the work is seeing what part of us resonates with that. Like, why is it that we're able to even identify with that person having an egotistical rant? The reason is because we ourselves are capable of those emotions, and we've elicited those emotions at some point on our own. So sometimes we'll be embarrassed for someone when they're like going off on a tangent, and then oftentimes we're embarrassed ourselves because of the things that we have said. So that's a set of rosy cheeks.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you. We are going to go on a break right now, And when we get back, we are going to talk about some of StevieAnne's philosophies and life coaching strategies and how they can help you. And you are listening to At Ease.
Would you like to share your military knowledge and experience with other service members and help them achieve their goals? Hey everybody, it's James from Vets On. You can do just that by becoming a military student enrollment advisor with the University of Phoenix at their Phoenix, Arizona campus. Military student enrollment advisors work with prospective students who've chosen to serve their country just like you. You'll be helping them enroll, choose a degree program, and guide them through their first class. To qualify for this great opportunity, you need a valid DD-214, military ID card from the National Guard or Reserves, a bachelor's degree, or 60 college credits. Military spouses are also eligible with current DoD ID card and a bachelor's degree. If you're looking for a great career while helping fellow military members, then we urge you to contact the University of Phoenix today. Apply now by going to jobs-apollo.com and enter the word Military Enrollment Advisor in the search bar. And don't forget to tell them that Vets On sent you. Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in their life. I'm no different. Hey everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strong about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552 or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
Breaker, 19. How about that bandit? You got them ears on, son?
Have you ever wanted to be a truck driver? If so, pay attention. If not, pay attention anyway. Southwest Truck Driver Training offers everything you need to get started. You can get hired before you begin training. They've got GI Bill approved training facilities, day, night, or weekend programs to fit your busy schedule. And if you have any questions, no sweat. They've got veteran supportive campuses with veterans on staff to serve you. And on top of that, they have lifetime job placement assistance. Put the pedal to the metal. Call Southwest Truck Driver Training today.
Do you need an extra push to start your day? Well, then tune in to At Ease Radio. At Ease Radio is a show that explores tough questions in an open and fun forum. The program also engages hard-hitting issues concerning veterans' physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. This show airs every Tuesday from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Vets On Media Network. At Ease Radio is hosted by Jesse James, a combat veteran of Afghanistan, so he knows the problems that veterans face every day. Jesse provides you guidance each and every week to be a better you. So tune into yourself each week by tuning into At Ease Radio. Go to vetsonmedia.com for show details.
You're listening to At Ease Radio on the Vets On Media Network.
Welcome back to At Ease Radio. I am Jesse Gerritsen, and we are talking to StevieAnne Pettit, the author of Farts Are Like Egos. And before we left, we were talking about the book, but I wanted to get a little bit back into the book. So we're talking. Let's talk a little bit about clearing the air, Stevie. What does that entail?
So clearing the air is the comedic comparison between, after someone has expelled gas, typically everyone runs for cover and they, head for the exit. And the same can be said about some of our egotistical rants. There's people that, one egotistical rant can break up a family for decades. You don't see them at the reunion or they don't talk to one another. Perhaps saying something in a relationship could send the other person packing and you've lost them forever, all because of one egotistical outburst. So the idea of clearing the air is that it can be really, really difficult to do so after expelling our essence, and that's why it's important to consciously crop dust, because
Right.
in the
Absolutely.
event we don't, we might find it really, really difficult to clear the air between friends, family members, loved ones, etc. in the future.
Yeah. So in that example, let's say that somebody comes in a life, needs some life coaching, and they are um, have a family feud, and they have not spoken to, let's say, their father in a while, and what how would you help coach that person to clear the air?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we're responsible for ourselves.
Right.
And it would be the ego in us, more than likely, that would be generating a lot of mind chatter around that. Of course, everything's a case-by-case scenario, but I think so long as we're doing work on ourselves and ultimately for ourselves, everything else will pan out the way it's supposed to. So it's an interesting question, and you'd like to see, I guess, the end result. You ask your client, well, what is your ideal situation, and what would that look like? And perhaps for a moment they'll imagine those things and they'll articulate what would be ideal, but it's the ego in us that attaches to outcome. So although those things are fine, it'd be nice to find good balance between the two. So offering, of course, that we can always take steps towards our ideal image, what we would like to see happen, but not getting too caught up in the attachment or the outcome, because I really do believe that we all have the answers within ourselves, and that things are going to pan out exactly as they should, so long as we are, taking care of our own purposeful path.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of makes sense. It's hard to. I think I would just ultimately offer self-work, and only good things can come from knowing that you're on your purposeful path. Either other people will get the heck out of the way, or you're going to be navigating your purposeful path so effortlessly that other people are able to either join you on your path and align with you, and drive parallel, or not. But so long as you're on your purposeful path, it's almost like this chaos-free lane,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is to just make sure that we're navigating where we need to as a person, and then everything else falls in place. And we find that journey is a lot more pleasant.
Right. It's like driving with the lights on, rather you'll get there with the lights off, but it's just going to be more pleasant with the lights on.
Right, and then listening to our purposeful, connection, and just knowing where we need to be, as opposed to listening to the GPS. Often I talk about the ego being like a GPS, and this is our vessel. It comes with the car. Well, the GPS is always trying to tell us where to go and how to get there, and with whom, like a relative that we feel guilt-stricken that we're not talking to, or what have you.
Right.
But the idea is not always our GPS is accurate. If anything, I think a lot of us have found ourselves in the middle of a field, and it's getting ready to tell us to turn, and we're like, no way, this thing's about to tell me to turn. There is not a street here.
Yeah.
So oftentimes GPSs are going based on outdated and old information, and that's our egos too, based on certain circumstances. Yeah, mind chatter is generated, and though it's not good nor bad, it's information. We have to sift through it to see how accurate it is and whether or not it serves our purposeful path in this present moment.
Right. And whether or not it lines up with what you were saying as being your perfect, whole, balanced self.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So how about silent but deadly? Let's talk about that a little bit.
So silent but deadly is the internal dialogue. So, this is quiet. Not everyone hears it. Not everyone knows the internal dialogue that's going on, but it's deadly. It's toxic. And I related this to our, the SBDs that we have in life. I've related to our internal dialogue, which is the mind chatter of negative talk, negative self-talk. So this is self-loathing. This is I'm not good enough. or this is self-righteous, I'm better than. This is the negatively fueled, and when I say negative, not necessarily bad, but let's just say on a scale, vibrationally, energetically, you've got your positive and your negative, okay?
Right.
It's lower vibrational, which is why it's almost silent. That's why no one hears it, and it's not abrupt. However, it's just as deadly. It's just as toxic, if not more so, because we're not even consciously crop dusting it and talking about it to other people who can kind of say, yeah, man, that's stinking thinking. Let's clear the air. Let's get you out of this environment. But instead, it's just festering inside of us. So that's the idea behind the comedic comparison in the chapter Silent but Deadly. And I know we're getting into some comedic comparisons, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. No pun intended, although that's hilarious. All of the chapters do ultimately end up with the idea that, just like flatulence, releasing without any sort of pressure or shame, it creates inner peace.
Yeah.
And, it's so comical. We give ourselves such a hard time about these things that we're embarrassed of, or that we're not sure how to air. And it's just comical. It shouldn't even be called the human experience. It should be called the humor experience.
Right.
Life is funny. Farts are hilarious, and egos even more so.
Right.
So if we could just, allow them to not be labeled as either good or bad, but to just see them as information and allow them to pass through before we consciously crop dust, just sift through and see if it serves us or not. So that's the idea. There's comedic comparisons. We can observe it. We can laugh about it. And that's the intention of chapters 1 through 8, is to just observe all the comedic comparisons so that we can at least see when the ego is generating mind chatter, because in those moments that we're observing it, that is conscious awareness, and that's how we reach chapter 9, which is just allowing it to be, allowing it to freely roam and linger before we consciously crop dust whatever it is we need to. So that's the idea behind all the chapters, even though they sound somewhat crass. Time we make those comparisons each and every time.
Yeah.
We're experiencing conscious living.
Absolutely.
So it's really exciting. We're lighting up, and lightening up enlightenment. So
Exactly.
it's just a fun way to approach it.
That is what I love about it so much, is that it's taking it's really taking the human experience and it's making it into a less serious. And I think that's we tend to get so serious about things. Oh my God, if this happens, like my life is over, or I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to be wrong, I don't want to all these things. But the thing is that we're always going to get hurt. We're always going to we're going to be wrong from time to time. We're going to but if we can as in your book, and just kind of recognize that things are not as big a deal, and that we don't have to linger in the toxicity of what we're trying to avoid, or what we're our egos, then it's just it makes it a little bit more fun, and you just keep coming back to that place of enlightenment, of I am love, I am perfect and whole. Yeah. So
the ego in us that says I'm going to be wrong, or I'm wrong. It's that we are precious, and we're perfect, and we're priceless. I mean, there's just we really are. We're these amazing beings, and we're having this human experience. It's not a human test. I mean, to some, perhaps that's their truth. I don't know, but for me, I'm well aware that this is a human experience for me, and I'm experiencing all this information happening around me. And the ego serves as a little bit of information, or a lot rather, just always talking and providing its, mind chatter.
Right.
But I don't believe that I'm ever wrong. I'm simply experiencing. Do you know what I mean? Not in an egotistical way, but we're perfect and precious and priceless. So I don't know that we're ever wrong. perhaps it's the ego in us that identifies with that. If it's just an experience, perhaps everything's right. And then it's just up to us to find what is the highest vibration for us.
The highest right for us.
The greatest good.
Yeah.
Not necessarily wrong or negative, but just, you're here, you deserve to be here, you know?
You're here, but you could be here. And yeah, totally. And what the other part of this that I really love is it's like there's two ways to look at a fart. You can either be, really offended by it and or you can laugh at it. And it's sort of like that's how you can look at life too. Like you can either be really offended by where you are and really like upset about what's going on in your life, or you can accept it and laugh about it and remember what is good in your life.
Yeah. One of my favorite chapters is quick to blame, not to claim. And much like farts, we're always quick to say like, oh my God, that guy's having the biggest ego rant, and oh my God, that lady's a, brat. However, how often do we say like, it was me? You know what I mean? Like in the elevator or what have you.
Yeah.
So the idea is, like you were saying, if we can not be ashamed of it, but perhaps just go like, whoa, that was me this time.
Yeah.
It's a little easier to live with because we're living with it, not for it. And no different than flatulence. Like we live with it. Why are we so ashamed to just be like, hey man, my bad.
Yeah, right.
I digested that information a different way, and then that's how I expelled it. My bad.
So, my bad.
Yeah, whoopsie.
I'm gonna turn on a fan. Open the window. All right, cool. So, talk to us about Just Hot Air.
Okay, so Just Hot Air is the chapter that, it talks about how oftentimes, like flatulence, it's nothing more than hot air. So egos, the mind chatter that we generate when we were talking earlier about, almost like a GPS. It's giving us information, but possibly outdated information or just assumptions.
Right.
Do we ever truly know the entire absolute truth about anyone's circumstances around us? I don't. So speaking for me at least, who am I to make assumptions or egotistical perceptions, because that's all that it is I'm perceiving what I believe to be true. So the ego likes to attach and identify, and that's fine. It's just information. But do we know for sure that it's absolutely valid? It could be nothing more than hot air.
Right.
So, it serves its purpose. It's trying to send us information for whatever reason, and perhaps it is valid. Perhaps it keeps us from making a really poor decision in a business partnership or in a relationship. And we know those answers though deep within us, separate from the mind chatter that accompanies our human experience. So it's just sifting through again and seeing how much validity there is there and whether or not it serves us in our greatest good. And oftentimes it can. It's just information, neither good nor bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So the example or the metaphor that kind of is popping up in my head, and I want to just throw it out there, so if somebody like cuts you off in traffic, and you like there's two ways you can react to it, right? There's you can go, that guy personally offended me, and that and I'm pissed off, and I'm now you're angry at work, and you're or you could just be like, well, maybe I have no idea what's going on with that guy. Maybe you could whatever. I mean, like maybe he had his wife, maybe. But here's the thing: is that I don't really know, and I don't have to let it bother me. I can release that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who knows what they're going through? We've all had emergencies where we've been behind a vehicle who, whether they're driving the speed limit or not, we need to go past them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, why attach ourselves to the outcome or the assumptions? We could be completely off. I mean, what's the likelihood that we're going to nail the exact reason that person cuts us off?
Yeah.
And why even bother trying to analyze that? Me personally, I'd prefer to go, man, I'm making a lot of judgments right now, a lot of mind chatter.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll let it go. You know?
Like recognize, maybe this isn't my perfect, I could be at a higher vibration.
Right. Is this serving my greatest good?
Right.
No, because right now I'm at a level
of
of
higher vibration. No, it's good.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. And how about Did I Just Shart?
This one's great, and it's towards the end of the book, chapter 8, and it's because we tend to want to latch on to enlightenment. We want to keep chasing it. And so we practice as often as we can remember to be conscious. So we start to feel like these enlightened beings, and we're like, all right, I got this. Like, I'm consciously living, and I'm doing the best I can, and I know what to say and when to say it. And just when we think that we have our ego under control, we shart. Yeah. We have diarrhea of the mouth. Mm-hmm. And we go off on a rampage because we forgot about the present moment. We didn't stay in that present moment. So the chapter about sharting is the comparison of diarrhea of mouth, and how we think that we have it under control, and then we let it rip.
And then something comes up and we're like, wait a minute.
Please.
Excuse me.
Exactly.
Oh man, Stevie, it's just so funny. So we're about to go on another break. When we get back, we are going to talk about the final chapter, and also say our sad farewells, but also talk about letting go and the sweet release.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're listening to Addie's.
Would you like to share your military knowledge and experience with other service members and help them achieve their goals? Hey everybody, it's James from Vets On. You can do just that by becoming a military student enrollment advisor with the University of Phoenix at their Phoenix, Arizona campus. Military student enrollment advisors work with prospective students who've chosen to serve their country just like you. You'll be helping them enroll, choose a degree program, and guide them through their first class. To qualify for this great opportunity, you need a valid DD-214, military ID card from the National Guard or Reserves, a bachelor's degree, or 60 college credits. Military spouses are also eligible with current DoD ID card and a bachelor's degree. If you're looking for a great career while helping fellow military members, then we urge you to contact the University of Phoenix today. Apply now by going to jobs-apollo.com and enter the word Military Enrollment Advisor in the search bar. And don't forget to tell them that Vets On sent you.
Breaker, 19. How about that bandit you got them ears on, son?
Have you ever wanted to be a truck driver? If so, pay attention. If not, pay attention anyway. Southwest Truck Driver Training offers everything you need to get started. You can get hired before you begin training. They've got GI Bill approved training facilities, day, night, or weekend programs to fit your busy schedule. And if you have any questions, no sweat. They've got veteran supportive campuses with veterans on staff to serve you. And on top of that, they have lifetime job placement assistance. Put the pedal to the metal. Call Southwest Truck Driver Training today.
Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in your life. I'm no different. Hey everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strongly about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552 or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
Hey everyone, it's Adam from Vets On. Are you or someone you know looking for employment? Then look no further than iVetX. iVetX is placing veterans with the right hiring companies. Join their mission in putting veterans in inspiring careers with ensured success. Access their national pipeline of military talent for companies. All veterans are pre-screened for 55 soft skill sets, 800 clarification types, education, experience, salary range, and so much more. iVetX can help you find the perfect job to veteran match. Your skills are based on what's needed for success in that job.
You're listening to Addie's Radio on the Vets On Media Network.
Welcome back to At Ease Radio. We're talking to StevieAnne Pettit of Farts. Our egos are like StevieAnne Pettit. I keep saying Pettit, but it's
what woman doesn't like being called petite? It's totally fine.
No, that's why I was like, what a great name and how suitable. What inspired you, Stevie, to become a life coach?
Definitely my service in the military. I think one of the only things that really resonated with me while I was in was mentorship. I really appreciated that program. I don't know, I've always felt, I guess, inclined to mentor. I've had a really, really great background with mentors. I've always had at any given time in my life, whether, you know, in a group home or a foster home or in the military, I always had one person that believed in me, absolutely, and let me be and become, you know, and grow into Stevie, the greatest expression of Stevie, whether it was, you know, class clown or super emotional, you know, really talking about crazy stuff, aliens and Sasquatch and energy. It never failed.
Yeah.
I always had one person who really, really believed in me. And being a life coach, you know, the term, an interesting term. I like metaphor mentor. I love saying that because I do use a lot of metaphors, obviously, and I feel like it makes it a little less difficult to tell the story and then not stay there long, but kind of rebuild the story using metaphors. And that's also the language of the subconscious mind, is images and metaphors. So being a life coach to me is metaphor mentoring, and I'm inspired because of the many people that carried me through, I guess, what most would have considered a pretty tumultuous, you know, childhood and adolescence. But I just always had at least one person really, truly, absolutely, capital A, unconditionally love me just the way I was and remind me that I was perfect and precious and priceless, even if they didn't say it.
Yeah.
I knew that they felt that way about me, and so that ultimately inspired me to do that for others in the military. A lot of the junior troops that I worked with and peers alike, you know, and that was the only thing that equated in the civilian sector to mentoring in the military was life coach. Yeah. So through that, at the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, now my whole community is conscious, like-minded people like yourself who I can consciously collaborate with and raise the vibration of the masses, you know, the whole. And not in a egotistical way, but as an instrument. You know, the motto at SWIHA is to be an instrument, not an ego, in the healing of others. Yeah. So how wonderful to get to do, you know, to be a comedic coach. You know, I'm really fortunate that I get to serve in that capacity, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I love what you were saying about metaphor mentors, or being a metaphor mentor. And I wanted to ask if you could kind of expound a little bit about that being the language of the subconscious or the right brain. Because I
Um,
don't know if a lot of people
you
are.
know, a lot of us are left brain, or obviously there's duality. Um, we use a lot of mind chatter and analytical thought processes to kind of like figure things out. But the subconscious, it understands images and it understands metaphors. There is no time. There's no, it doesn't exist in that capacity. So you can use metaphors and guided imagery, like through hypnotherapy, which is separate from, what you see on scripted TV with hypnosis, stage hypnosis.
Right.
Hypnotherapy is a clinically proven and well documented and used by many medical associations, has proven tools and techniques and effective practices that help guide people through imagery, stories, that even if it's not directly an image of maybe their goal, the metaphors act as the surrogate, if you will, for your goals and what you want. And the subconscious, for whatever reason, understands it and changes it. And the thing is, it makes changes in the nowment.
Yeah.
Time doesn't exist either in that environment. It's not, it's void. So you can, by walking through a field of flowers and then winding up in a waterfall that cleanses you of your nicotine and tar that's been in your body and your negative self-talk, you can let go of, smoking habits. You
Right.
can walk through a library filled with a bunch of different doors and being called to one door in particular, and it can look however you want it to look, but on the other side of that door is the performance enhanced, conscious, compassionate, successful business person that you've always wanted to be. So long as it serves your greatest good, your subconscious mind will support it, and it's up to us as hypnotherapists and life coaches to support you on that process, knowing that you have all the answers within you, the client. Our goal is to simply talk to the subconscious in a way that we've already predetermined with our client would resonate, with
Right.
the images they'd like to see. And then we just narrate. We narrate their own story that helps them get to where they want to be, and then they get it immediately, which is wonderful. So, depending, of course, on how much they're willing to invest too into believing it, because that's that higher vibrational frequency too. When we talk about really being of a place of abundance and prosperity and gratitude, you got to operate at that level in order to receive all the things that we've manifested at that level.
Right.
So that's basically using the subconscious mind to speak in images and metaphors. It works wonders and quickly, really quickly.
I have absolutely, and that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, and I have absolutely experienced that myself. Would you have a little reading for us for the last chapter, letting go and creating inner peace?
Sure. So it's chapter 9. It is the last chapter, and I'll just read a bit from it. So obviously, letting go of any internal struggle provides a calmer state. This is especially true when we think of flatulence, and can also be applied to the internal mind chatter that gnaws inside of us. Now, this is not a suggestion to air the ego through words and actions as soon as and as often as they arise, but instead to simply acknowledge its presence and let the thoughts themselves simply flow through and out of the mind. Let them simply exist in the ethers. They're simply thoughts. Let them hang out and linger for just a moment as you discern whether or not your thoughts need to be aired and how best to expel them. So many incredibly influential and empowering people have found this to be true. They continue to practice it every day, every moment. It is evident in their growth and how they show up in this world, serving others from what feels so authentic and selfless. The main thing is we must understand that this is a practice, and the only way we can practice such is to be present in each fleeting moment. That's all we have, is each now-ment. So by consciously acknowledging the ego's presence, that in turn distances ourselves from it, and then in that place we're whole, we're conscious, we are able to recognize the perfection and the preciousness of every other being, and then ourselves included.
Right. And then we're able to laugh at the ego farts, or the lower vibrations, if you will.
Yeah, we're able to laugh at the human humor experience that's happening around us.
Yeah.
Because we see how unbelievably comical it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great, Stevie. If we wanted to, if one of our listeners wanted to get a hold of you and hire you as a life coach or hypnotherapist, how can we do that?
Well, I'd love to offer half off for those that I've served with, and alongside. So veterans, of course, they're willing to visit the website, which is begin-being.com. So beginbeing.com. That is the idea of just being, not trying to be anything in particular. So certainly getting to their goals of just being the greatest expression of themselves. Also, I can be emailed at Stevie, STEVIE, at beginbeing.com. There's a hyphen between begin and being. And then the books, of course, are at Amazon, and those are comical reads you'll have with you. I'm working on another book right now. I don't know if I can spill the beans. I want to say the title, but because I don't have the content just yet, I'm hesitant. But you know what? I'll just say it. The idea of all this egos are like farts is to be conscious of the mind chatter that's happening internally. Then from there, we're supposed to reframe into something that serves us. So the second book, maybe a squeakle, if you will, is going to be, I just shift my cans. I just shift my cans. So we're going to shift all the I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't be worthy of this, I can't be enough. We're going to shift those can'ts. So that's where I'm going. We'll see if it comes to fruition. But right now, that's what I'm brewing, if you will.
Yeah, that's what's kind of coming up.
Yeah, I just shift my cans.
Just shift my cans. Stevie, it's been such an honor to have you on. You're so
an honor being
inspiring, and we've really enjoyed you having you on the show. And when you write your next book, which you will, we would love to have you back on to talk about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I really think that this work and us consciously collaborating, I think it's divine. And I thank your listeners, and I thank you guys for having me. And I think that this is one of the ways that we can live a life at ease.
Absolutely. Thank you. Adam? All right. Well, thank you, Adam, and thank you, Stevie, and goodbye. You're listening to At Ease.